Hi guys, welcome back to the 3v3 YOS. This is day 2. Um, we have cut into the top 4 teams in this event. I'm Hash, and I'm joined by Orion for one more time. And we're going to be featuring Gabriel Netz from the Disciples playing against a player by the name of Ben Hodgeson from Team Ewan Needs This. So, Orion, what are your thoughts about this matchup?
Uh, well, I think it's pretty obvious what Netz is playing. I'm not sure what his opponent's playing.
Yeah,
But just knowing the format, it's probably a combo mirror, so see how it goes.
yeah, pretty good chance that it is indeed a combo mirror. So what are your thoughts on this top 4 cut in general? We have like 4 different teams. The 2 that we're currently featuring, in addition to the Luxury X Gabe Nation team, which we featured earlier, as well as the 2 meter rule team, which we featured earlier.
I think it's about what you expect looking at the teams that entered. Pretty surprised for the Disciples at top, performing really well in online tournaments lately.
Yeah, that's quite true. Something quite funny to note. Both top 4 pairings played against each other in Swiss. So I'm pretty sure all of them know what they're playing against.
Yeah, it was same ABC for Swiss, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, so Ben gets to go first. Starts with Analyzer. That's a good start.
Yeah, so it's gonna make combo mirror.
Yup.
It's pretty unsurprising.
Think about
the breakdown. It's a lot of combo decks.
That's true. The thing about Netz's deck though is that he does play hand traps. So the Analyzer is met with the Ash Blossom, which is not enough to stop Ben here because he has Researcher.
Yeah, that's when you see another hand trap coming down.
Yeah, I mean, Nibiru is going to be very, very impactful here if he does have it because he's already used the Researcher.
Yeah, once you use the Researcher, you can't really play around Nibiru anymore.
Mm-hmm. This is why I'm definitely not a fan of using Researcher early, but I'm assuming that he had no other option. So
yeah,
it's
you just have to
understandable.
sometimes.
He's going to go for the Gallant Granite. The Gallant Granite resolving here is obviously like pretty good because it guarantees Block Dragon access. However, since he used the Researcher early, the Block Dragon in itself isn't going to do that much. He's going to have to play a bit awkwardly in order to get the setup that he needs to do in order for him to maximize the potential of what Block Dragon can do here.
So your only summon left is Seeker, but you just can't really get in our Adamancipator on board to summon a Seeker.
Mm-hmm. You could do like a weird play with Metal March here to revive Analyzer there and then keep the Analyzer on the field.
Yeah, that should be what he goes for.
Mm-hmm. Nuts allows Hulky Fabrics to resolve, so at this point I think it's fair to assume that the only hand trap you could possibly have at this point is Nibiru.
Yeah, I think he has to have it. If he doesn't have it, it's gonna be really tough to come back in this game.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, the thing with Netz's deck is that it's just a bunch of broken, like, dragon cards. So, all he needs to do is just 1-4-1 away his opponent's field, and then eventually just resolve Romulus. And once he resolves Romulus, he can, like, scuff out a Buster Lock, and then Adamancipator literally can't out it.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about the Buster Lock is really strong going second. Because normally in combo mirrors you need to win the game going second. Having the Buster Lock means all you need to do is get to Carrier and Savage and you win the game.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to actually kill your opponent.
Yeah, and like, I mean, it doesn't even have to be Savage. You can equip it to a Boral Sword, which is also like really, really tough to out because the Boral Sword is 4,000, turns something to defense, and it can't be destroyed by battle.
Yeah, just no outs of that in the standard Adamancipator list.
Mm-hmm. It's very true.
His normal out is the what's the rock monster that sets a monster face down?
Dark Crusader?
Yeah, so you just flip the Boral's face down. Can't do that on Boral's sword.
Yeah, but you can like use its second effect to bounce the Buster Whelp equip to your opponent's hand.
Yeah.
Alright, so he is going for the play where he revives an Adamancipator monster off Metal Marcher. We'll see if this is because he wants to keep a Life Seeker or if it's because of a different reason. He goes for the Herald here, so Nets doesn't have any Bureau. There's no way. Which
Yeah, so
means...
rest of this combo should definitely be resolving.
Mm-hmm. This looks like it's not going to be his game. We'll see what happens game 2, but it's looking pretty bad for him now.
Yeah, at this point you kind of rare not even have drawn the Ash. Really all it did is -1 home in hand.
Yeah. I mean, we will have to wait and see how much of an impact the Ash put, because it did force Ben to use Researcher early. But I think what he's going to go for here is a Link 2 to trigger Block Dragon. And now when he searches the Seeker, he can just play his deck normally since he has a Researcher on the field.
How do you feel about playing the Rokket deck over something like Adamancipator?
I think something that a lot of people like, a trap that a lot of people fall into when they think about Rokket is they start comparing it to Adamancipator, which I feel like isn't a fair comparison, because like you really can't compare any combo deck that has existed in this game's history to Adamancipator. I don't feel like there has been something that is this resilient in a very long time, if ever. But the thing with the Rokket deck is that although it's like not as resilient or has as high of a ceiling as Rock, it has room for flexibility, it has room for improvement, and it's what is very important is that it can like fit in hand traps while also just like reliably knowing that you can play hand traps and still see your engine and or snowball with it, which is something Adamancipator cannot do. So you could argue that that's like what gives it an edge in some combo mirrors.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That's kind of just the problem with Adamancipator. You start playing like 6-9 hand traps, you just lose all your resiliency. Which is what makes the deck so strong.
Yeah, it's extremely hard to fit in more than 5 hand traps in Adamancipator.
Yeah, because once you draw too many going first, and they're not extenders, you just lose games to hand traps.
It's very weird as well, because like what the Rokket deck can do is even if it loses to hand traps because it opened hand traps, you just hand trap your opponent back and then you get going again. But in the Rock deck, if you like get hand trapped on Fibrax and you pass on Fibrax and you have a couple of hand traps in hand, it's actually really hard to generate follow-up from that point, because chances are they're gonna attack over your Fibrax, you're gonna hand trap them, but they're still going to be playing their deck. So the hand traps are like not going to be nags per se, but they're still not going to be as good as like potential extenders that could have been in your hand in that case. So it's like really hard to recover after your turn 1 gets stopped, especially after you have less cards in hand because you used hand traps.
Yeah, it's really hard to come back from just not having any cards in Rock. You have like no 1-card starters like the Rokket deck has.
Right, so he's going for the Boral Savage, the Herald. It's pretty standard stuff here. Probably going to see an Appaloosa coming down.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Pretty standard inboard.
I don't think he's gonna have the IP though.
Yeah, I think missing one of the excavates hurt a bit.
Yeah, there is a way he can summon IP, but that involves like getting rid of 2 cards in his hand. So I'm not sure if he's gonna opt to do that. It's Appaloosa comes down. Is he going to summon the Block Dragon back and then end on IP, or is he just going to pass on this board?
So if he doesn't make anything with the Gigantes, it's a bit weird to summon it.
I definitely agree with this. Looks like he is. Oh, he's back. He's playing
Whoa.
double Gigantes.
That's really
Interesting.
interesting.
What
So
are your
now
thoughts
it's
on that?
easy to play. I don't know, it's kind of weird because Gigantes is really good to search. And like obviously in a hand like this, where you have Gigantes plus combo, so you get 2 at the to make your board with, it's really strong. Just so bricky.
I definitely agree with this. I feel like a lot of
Yeah, you
things
got
that
one more.
rock decks have been playing, like Access Code, and like double Gigantes, Sweeping Idol, these kind of cards, they just feel like very unnecessary in the deck. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He didn't summon back the Block Dragon after summoning the IP, which like tells me he either doesn't have an Earth monster in his hand, or like he's very adamant on keeping the cards in his hand.
Yeah, I think his last card in hand is a Researcher and 1 Unknown. So this one's probably a hand trap. He didn't want to discard the hand trap for Unicorn.
That makes sense. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
That sounds fair, yeah. Alright, so Netz starts with normal summon Tracer. He's probably going to threaten battle phase here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's really much of anything you can do about that.
Yeah, I mean I can see Netz breaking this board if he has a lot of engine, honestly.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Especially summons Absolutor. Okay, this is
Really
really
strong.
good actually. Yeah. This game is very winnable at this point actually. Would you have Unicorn the Tracer on the summon?
I don't think you can. So awkward.
Yeah, that's fair. I
Because to
think I
get their
agree with
battle
that.
phase, you lose a negate. But if you use IP, you lose a negate.
Oh my god, is that's not going to resolve Striker Dragon? Does this mean he has Boot Sector Launch in his hand? That's awful.
Oh, there we go.
Alright. So I think Ben has to negate the Boot Sector Launch here, right? Because like if you don't negate, not the Boot Sector Launch, sorry, Striker Dragon, because like if you search Boot Sector Launch here, and then you force out the Omni negates, Boot Sector just becomes a Soul Charge, which is really
Yeah, I
really
agree.
strong.
You just have to negate it here.
Yup, that's fair. But now Noctivision resolves, which is just an extra dragon, and he's going to get so much advantage now after linking these 2 off.
Yeah, not ending on a Dweller is going to be potentially really relevant here. Just getting off the Router and the Noctivision.
Yeah,
lot
this
of
is one
pluses.
of these hands where Dweller actually does a lot to this deck. Because like,
Yeah,
some
most of the
some
time it just
hands
doesn't
get
do anything.
destroyed by Lancia, some hands get destroyed by Dweller, but like typically the hands that this deck generally opens can full combo through either of them on average. That's just happened to open one of these hands where Dweller would have been really, really strong.
I'm really interested to see if that last card in hand is a hand trap. Potentially be really relevant here. It's having one more negate could be what makes it.
I think it's fair to assume that it is a hand trap, right?
Yeah, I would definitely think so. I think if it's not a hand trap, you just always summon back the Block Dragon.
Do you agree with Gabe's Chainlink order here? He went for Chainlink 1 Romulus, Chainlink 2 Nocto, and then Chainlink 3 Router. Do you not think it would have been better to just Chainlink 1 Nocto, Chainlink 2 Romulus?
What's the difference?
The difference is that you take out the target for... You don't draw...
Yeah.
You take out the target for Romulus before drawing a card.
I guess it just determins on what your hand is. If you want to draw the Ravine or the Lance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine that being correct in a lot of hands.
Makes sense. Something really interesting here is he still hasn't like gone to the battle phase to try and threaten IP, but like I think it makes sense because if Ben elects to use IP, he has to link off an Appaloosa or a Savage, which is not very good for him.
Yeah, he really... There's just not a good chance to use the IP.
So Phalanx comes down, and now Link Cross is going to hit the field, I think. Yep. You definitely Appaloosa this, right?
Yeah, I think you Appaloosa everything you can. Especially when all the monsters on Netz's field are so small, so you can't just stack over anything.
He allows Link Cross. That's very interesting. Assuming a Metal Marcher will come down here. There we go. Alright, so this is the first Appaloosa negate.
Seems kind of weird to negate, yeah? At that point, you could have just negated the Link Cross.
I think I can get behind why he does this. He does this because, like, this means that there is a useless token on the field if Nets has no extenders. But like at the same time, if Nets has no extenders, he's not winning this game, I think. So I definitely think that negating Link Cross would have made more sense here. Maybe Ben was just afraid of what Nets might have.
What does he make here?
I'm assuming Hulky Fibrax.
This thing wants to make it into the Appaloosa.
Yeah, I mean, if he summons Fibrax, it's negated. If he summons the generic Dragon Link 2 Protector one, that's too small. So, alright, so he does opt to go for it. Alright, this makes a lot of sense now. He banishes it to summon Red Ice Darkness Metal Dragon.
That's a really good summon. Just forces everything out if it needs to.
Yep, that's very true. Still not looking really good for Nats because his opponent still has a lot of interruptions.
Yeah, probably Unicorn back the Darkness Metal. He still has a Savage Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, you have to here, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to let it go.
Yeah, okay, so let's see if he does that. And at this point, Nets has 2 unknowns in hand and Tracer, right?
I believe so.
Mhm.
Yeah, that should be it.
Actually, my bad. I think he searched the Rokket Recharger off.
Oh yeah, he did. You're right.
Yeah, so that actually might be pretty strong here because if Nuts gets to summon a second Striker Dragon here, he will be able to abuse Rocket's Recharger's effect to just bring back 2 dragons on the field, which will help him to link Libe to Carrier and a Dark Monster to equip the Dark Dragon, sorry, to equip the Buster Lock.
Yeah, that'll be really strong if it comes to it.
Right, so he does use IP here. Probably Unicorn, shuffling back the Red Ice Darkness Metal Dragon. He's going to keep the Savage on the field, which I definitely agree with. I think that makes a lot of sense. Right, so it was a Nibiru.
Whoa.
Oof, that's a really good card. I think you have to Savage this, right? Because...
Yeah. If we get to
Yeah,
Striker Dragon. Really bad spot.
Mm-hmm. Would you have discarded the Nibiru there? I mean, we think we said that his last card in hand should be a Researcher. So, wouldn't you discard the Researcher instead of the Nibiru?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Because it's a bit awkward, because if you summon the Nibiru and you discard the Researcher, then you have no follow-up play next turn. Because you summoned back the Black Dragon, but then I don't believe he had anything in the extra deck to link into. So we would need to top deck a monster, but the odds on that are really high.
He did have something. He needed, like, he had the Union Carrier, so he did have an option.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I definitely think discarding the Nibiru there was really questionable.
Yeah, like you just Nibiru your opponent, you have a Nibiru on your field, and then you can just link off Nibiru and Block Dragon into Union Carrier, right? Because they're both rock monsters.
Yeah. You just build a combo out from there.
Doesn't end up
Ended up
mattering
not
too
mattering.
much.
Yeah. Scoops it up.
Alright, so Nets will get to go first here. Something very important here is that Nets revealed what his deck is. I mean, his opponent already knew what he was playing, but he did decide to play through. So assuming they didn't know what they were playing, then this would actually make siding for Ben way easier.
I don't know, I think it's kind of tough for Nets. I think it's easy to guess what he's playing from playing so many online tournaments.
So Nets goes first after losing the first game. The Rocket deck's pretty consistent, so this should be a pretty good end board by him, unless he gets met by a lot of hand traps.
Definitely not the card you want to discard, but shouldn't end up mattering.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the card you want to discard, but it's definitely a card you want to draw, right? The Chaos Space.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, him discarding a hand trap might just be telling us that his entire hand is extenders, which is really, really scary. Alright, so actually retract that comment. I don't think he has that many extenders since he chain blocked it so that his Collapse Serpent resolves before the Striker resolves
Yeah.
after the Striker Dragon, which means that I don't think he has that many lines of play here.
Yeah, this could be a really awkward hand.
It's very true. He will get a draw off the Chaos Space here, which might end up changing some stuff. So since his opponent was thinking on the Striker Dragon, it's fair to assume that he has an Impermanence or a Veiler here, right?
I definitely think so, but I don't know, that was weird. You definitely, I don't think you would think on the Striker Dragon.
Yeah,
A
like
weird spot, hand trap.
yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it's like correct to hand trap Striker Dragon because unlike like the old Rocket decks, the new Rocket decks don't really play a heavy Rocket engine. So adding Boot Sector Launch doesn't really do much until you access Tracer off Ravine or Brotar, depending on what you go for. So hand trapping Striker Dragon is a bit weird. And also, like, there are just obviously just way better choke points that you can hit, like a Romulus that's coming down here. So we'll see if this gets hand trapped.
Yeah, hitting Romulus is normally really strong.
Yep.
Just lets it go through. So I'm thinking he might have just not even had a hand trap. I just been bluffing it.
Yeah, that's also very fair to do here. The one hand trap that he might still have is the Nibiru. Maybe he has Impermanence and Nibiru, in which case you can just hold it until the very end of their turn, honestly.
Yeah, that would be extremely strong.
Yeah, I mean, he would need to know how to time it because if Nets plays it safe, he might opt to summon Appaloosa instead of a Heraldic Seal. So then Impermanence Nibiru won't be able to do much. However, I think like if you do have Impermanence Nibiru, it's reasonable to just like resolve it on the summon of LP.
Yeah, at that point. You aren't getting everything, but you're getting enough to just close out the game most times.
Very true, yeah. Like you typically want to Nibiru the deck after they summon, like if you have Impermanence and Nibiru, you want to Nibiru them after they summon the Hulky Fibrax because once like they burn through Hulky Fibrax and Romulus, they can't really play through unless they have two extenders in hand. In which case, like two hand traps weren't going to do anything to begin with. Point is thinking on the effect of Metal March. He gets
With
met by the
Ghost
Ghost
Ogre.
Ogre. Alright, that's the hand trap we weren't talking about. Alright, so I think
Has
we
no
talked
eyes
about this
bucket.
yesterday, right? We said that Ghost Ogre is a very underrated hand trap right now. We do see it
Yeah,
coming
it's
down here.
really underplayed.
I think it's pretty good, honestly.
How do you feel about ogering right here?
I can understand it. However, I feel like maybe just ogering Romulus would have been way better. I don't know. Maybe ogering Divine Lance. Yeah, ogering Divine Lance actually sounds correct. Oh no. Alright, so Boot Sector is resolving. Yeah, that's also another good card to ogre. I'm going to assume that the only hand trap Ben has is the ogre because if you have another hand trap, you would probably want to hold the Ghost Ogre for something like a Boot Sector, um, perhaps use it preemptively on Striker Dragon, or sorry, not Striker Dragon, Divine Lance. This is very weird. Alright, so LP is coming down. The Protector Rope is probably going to be summoned here as well. And now Nets just gets to play with his deck, which is what he would have wanted to do at the start of this game.
Yeah,
when
there's
he,
no Nibiru coming down. It's looking really good for Nets.
It's very true. Yeah, I mean the Buster Luck is just more than enough to win this matchup, so he's probably gonna just set it up and have a couple of more interruptions and just call it a day, and then go to game 3 perhaps. When he activated Boot Sector Launch, we saw him summoning 2 Rokket monsters, which just tells us his hand was awful.
Yeah, his hand must have been really bad. You
Mhm.
really don't want to be drawing very many rockets.
Something interesting to note though, he went for Chaos Space Discard Veiler instead of Chaos Space Discard Recharger or Synchron. That sounds a bit different to what I think I would have done.
Yeah, I don't really see the point. It's a bit odd. It's just really free to discard a researcher, a recharger, or synchron. Not really doing much in hand. Even getting a 2 summons off the boot sector didn't end up doing too much here.
I mean, maybe the way he saw it was that, well, first of all, maybe he sided out the other Rokket level 4, so he doesn't have like a reliable way to get into Savage. Or he just decided that if his Striker Dragon were to resolve, he's just going to have infinite dragons, so he can play through everything. In which case, he can just, discard the Veiler and not worry, because if Striker Dragon resolves, he has to force combat through whatever, no matter what.
Yeah, I definitely think that would be his reasoning.
Right, so he goes for the Pisty here, the other Guard Dragon. Probably reviving a Tracer. Yup.
Yeah, now it's really just down to if that Nibiru is in hand.
That's true. However, if he does have Nibiru, Erratic Seal will trigger, which can get a Barotar, search a Levianeer, and then the Levianeer can loop 1 card of his opponent's hand. And then he has to play with 3 cards, which I mean, Adamancipator can definitely play with 3 cards in hand, it's just not optimal.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of combinations. You drew that.
He elects to destroy the Boot Sector launch off Tracer instead of the token. Do you agree with that?
I'm not sure how much the token's really doing here. I guess it gives you a link material for next turn.
Yeah.
Not sure how much that matters.
Yeah, that makes sense, honestly. I just feel like after turn 1, Boot Sector launch is just a very incredibly strong card. Because it's either going to help you win through whatever your opponent establishes after somehow breaking your board, if they manage to do that, which is unlikely, obviously. Or it's just going to be fuel for your hand if your hand is Rokket monsters. And in a deck like this, you can just add back the Rokket monsters from your graveyard anyway. But at the end, he decides not to. He drew the Buster Whelp, which is really unfortunate, but it shouldn't matter.
Yeah, his opening hand, not good.
Not at all. Doesn't matter though. He ends up winning this game. The Buster Luck is just too strong against that Adamancipator, right? Like, it's actually impossible to out.
How do you feel about summoning Savage and Defense?
I understand why he did it. I think he was doing it to just like ensure that there is no way Tackle Crusader is ever going to resolve. But it would have played into a Lightning Storm, so it's a bit questionable. Also, Dino Wrestler Pankratops, you know.
Yeah, Pankratops is a big card.
Yeah, Pankratops would have been really, really big there. So I think I would have probably summoned it in attack. But I definitely see the argument for summoning it in defense.
Yeah, I agree. I think the odds of your opponent siding in Lightning Storm versus your combo deck is pretty low.
Yep, I agree with that.
I think Pankratops is pretty common right now. It wouldn't have mattered there since he had the spear. But maybe something like Dark Roller and Pankratops. Just losing two for no reason.
Right, so something really good for Ben here is that he will probably get to go first in game 3, but Netz plays a lot of hand traps. So I think it's going to be a matter of hand comparisons.
Yeah, we'll see if he draws enough hand traps.
Yep.
That's always a scary thing with Rock. Sometimes you can draw 3 hand traps, it's just not enough.
Yeah, but sometimes you just open a Doki hand and then you cry.
Yeah, so we'll definitely see what happens here.
Yep. So he goes first, obviously. Nothing surprising there. Let's see what he starts with. Unexpected Die, the best card in the deck.
It's always good to start with.
Card is insane. You know, I keep telling people that they should Ash this card, but they think I'm joking. But I'm like serious. If you have multiple hand traps, please Ash Unexpected Die. The card is insane.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There's a Tahara as well. Wait, no, he summoned both a Tahara and Trumpeter from his deck by a mistake. Right.
Odd misclicks. Pretty normal on DB.
Yeah, that does happen. We're just gonna have to pull up the logs. It seems to have been sorted out. He does end up having the Atari anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Alright, so Angel Trumpeter and Atar, really good start. He ends up not being able, not having a level 4 in hand, otherwise he would have normal summoned it and gone into Gallant Granite. Goes into Firebrax anyway instead, and Netz is thinking on Firebrax, so he might have an interruption for it.
Yeah, now having another 4 is really unfortunate. You really want to make Granite there. Now if the Fiber gets hand trapped, you're in a really awkward spot.
Yeah, I mean, you could just have Block Dragon anyway, so it might not end up mattering.
Yeah, if you have Block Dragon, almost no hand traps matter.
Okay, so Halky Fabrics gets asked. Ben sets one card, and this probably means he ends his turn. Yup.
Yeah, that's rough.
So Netz is free to play the game now. Starts with Chaos Space. That's always a very good start. This card's a Phantasm.
Yeah, he might actually just have like 3 disruption. Because there's very few cards there that you don't just normal summon aren't hand traps. So I definitely expect him to have a good amount of disruption here.
Yeah, there's an Ash coming down, so that's one.
Set's probably an impermanence.
Yep, I was about to say that. I think it's very fair to assume that it's an impermanence. Maybe something like Called by the Grave, but I don't think that's possible because he didn't Called by the Grave the Ash Blossom, right?
Yeah, you definitely would if you had it.
Yep.
Should be an impermanence.
He normal summons Phalanx, which is very unfortunate. That's definitely not a card you want to draw in the Rokket deck, but that's one of the drawbacks to this Rokket deck, honestly. There's just a lot of cards that you optimally don't want to see. However, like, all the small dragons that are considered bricks are still Striker Dragon, so it's not that bad, but they're just not optimal.
Yeah, definitely not optimal.
Sugar Dragon ends up resolving here, which is this might be really good for Netz actually. Maybe just like last game, he has just a handful of Rokket monsters.
Did he pass?
Yeah, he did.
Wow.
So he has no plays.
It's gonna be a really interesting game.
I mean, who do you think is favored at this point?
I definitely think Netz has more draws. But if the Rock deck just ever draws Block Dragon in a situation like this,
Researcher is a good start. That's 1/3 of a Block Dragon. So we'll see how this goes.
ooh, he sees a Doki Doki. That's really good.
We do see that he's playing Called by the Grave. Do you think? Well, we talked about this yesterday, where we agreed that I don't think Called by the Grave is necessarily optimal in a deck like Rock. You can just like play more extenders, right?
Yeah, I definitely think drawing Extender is better than drawing Called.
Yeah. This might just be game, but since Netz passed, there's also like a good chance that he just has hand traps, right?
Yeah, I would definitely assume he does.
I think that's fair.
I think if you have utter like dragon normal summons, I don't think you would normal summon the Phalanx.
Yup, because if you have a play without normal summoning the Phalanx, you can just normal summon the other dragons and then use Romulus' second effect, which summons the Phalanx from your hand. Goes for a Link Cross here, so he's going to threaten Herald, so a Phantasmic comes down. That's actually probably the best hand trap he can have here, right?
Yeah, definitely. Let's try to draw to a better hand.
It's almost always part of greed in this deck. You're either shuffling back a bad card, or your hand is insane. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, we'll just see if the Union carrier for Black Dragon gets a resolve. Assume is what he's going for.
I mean, it might be a bit awkward if he doesn't play Link Spider, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be really awkward.
It sounds like the Angel Trumpeter. Maybe he's going for a Herald here and then a Raptite, or maybe he just overlays the Herald and the Trumpeter for a Granite. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it just determines how passive he wants to play this. Is he going for the granite? Oh, I think going for the granite would lose the Nibru, but I guess he would have already activated it.
Definitely would have already activated it.
Oh
Alright,
wow,
Nets
scoops it
picks
up.
up his cards.
Wow.
He scoops. It's very unfortunate. He ends up losing this. However, maybe he still gets to be in the final. I think they did end up winning the 3v3 leg overall. Yep. his
Yeah,
team
I would
won.
think he would only scoop there if his team had already won.
That's fair. So, the finals are going to happen soon. We have one half of the final that's already decided. The Disciples, and apparently they are going to be playing against the 2-meter rule, which means that the luxury team did end up losing their top 4 match. So we'll see how that goes. I think Orion and myself will not be around for the finals, so that's been it from us this weekend. It was very nice to commentate, and shout out to my friends, shout out to my team S7, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you in any next potential events. Orion, do you have anything to say?
No, it's been a great weekend. Yeah, tournament's been really nice. It's always fun to play and watch team tournaments. It's a really interesting dynamic.
It's very
Shout out
true.
to my team, Frozen Card Gaming, of course.
Best
Check us
team.
out on Facebook and YouTube. Even if Tristan isn't on our team anymore.
It's fine, bro. It's fine. We still have you, best player.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, guys. Take care, and stay tuned for the finals.